Hey everyone, this is yet another Deck Tech with another one of our champions from the AGE Pro team. My name is Anthony Pham, and here with me today is John Zapata, winner of the Commoner Battle Hardened down in Portland. Hey, say hey John, how's it going?
Oh yeah, hi Anthony. I'm doing well. Just got back from Chicago, like a few hours ago actually, from another calling. Yeah,
Yeah. Unfortunately, this Deck Tech is a little coming out a little bit late. I unfortunately was a little bit sick, so we couldn't do our Deck Tech as soon as we wanted to. But we definitely wanted to cover this sort of format, and also obviously your success in the Commoner Battle Hardened down there in Portland. So tell us a little bit about Portland itself. Like, was the city super cool? Was it your first time in Portland?
yeah. It's actually my first time in Portland. I travel a lot to the Pacific Northwest for work, but in Seattle. But I've always wanted to go south in Portland and check it out. So I didn't really see too much out of Portland. I walked from the venue to downtown, but I really wanted to see more nature and hiking. So I guess if there's another calling in Portland or an event to go to, I'll definitely like spend another day or two there just going out to see like the little beautiful views and like rivers and mountains over there. I know they have like really good waterfalls. I didn't get to do any of those, but it was a great town. Like I really enjoyed my time there.
Yeah, I know a couple of our friends actually came in a little bit earlier to enjoy all that wilderness, but we came in like basically on Friday morning. It was
Yeah,
super cool because we
in and
took
out.
that train. Yeah, we took the train in there. There was a train from the airport all the way to our hotel where the venue was at, so that was super cool. I guess the most we explored was Burgertown, huh?
Yeah, that Burger Town. I had three burgers. I don't know if anyone actually did the 10 burger challenge, but I don't know if anyone completed that one.
Yeah. This is
Just
not a sponsored video, by the way, but there was a restaurant next to the venue named Burgertown, and for some reason, I guess it was National Hamburger Day or something. We caught it on a good day, but they were selling $2 hamburgers, and they had meat, cheese, everything, so it was pretty cool.
yeah, maximum 10, so you could have at least 10 burgers.
Yeah, I got to the counter. I got intimidated. They said that I could get 10. I got super scared, so I just like give me 5. That's it, because I knew I couldn't do 10. But I should have took them up on the deal. That was free food all weekend.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into how you started about Flesh, or how you started in Flesh and Blood. Tell us a little bit about your journey in Flesh and Blood. When did you start? What set was the set that was first coming out when you started first playing?
I started playing in Tales of Aria. I think December 2021, I believe.
I
I
don't even
just
remember.
yeah, it's been so long, but essentially like I guess during the pandemic, I just stuck at home from work. Just kind of moved from like different hobbies to hobbies to doing stuff in my house. So first I tried like learning Spanish, and then eventually I built a PC for the first time. So I built one, and I ended up just playing games. And one of the games I played was downloaded was Magic Arena because like I played Magic as a kid, but I haven't played it in like over like 10, 15 years. So started drafting online, and I said, oh, maybe I can like do a actual draft like on paper. So I started looking for events. I didn't really see too many for Magic, but I did see like there's a new game, Flesh and Blood, that does drafts as well. Ended up like looking for like places to like play and draft, and I think the first event that I ever went to is in Kingslayer Games over here in Fountain Valley, Tales of Aria draft. So yeah, just went in there cold. I got wrecked because I drafted Lexi, but yeah, I really enjoyed my time there, and I eventually ended up going to those welcome to, or I guess farewell to welcome to raid events,
Hmm.
drafts, and yeah, that's when I started really like playing the game
So
around
yeah,
that time. Yeah.
yeah, I remember. I mean, like everyone has their struggles. I feel like that's why Flesh and Blood is so cool. Like you're gonna get wrecked when you first start out. Like it's this game is all hero knowledge and all mechanics knowledge, like the
Mhm.
interactions within the game. So you're always pretty much gonna get wrecked when you first start, but you learn pretty fast if you're pretty devoted. I remember at an army the first time I ever met you, we were both playing Briar. And I was on Channel Mount Heroic Briar, and you were still on Lightning Briar, only Lightning Briar. And I high rolled a little bit just because I found the CMH Force and Nature combo. And you're like, wow, that's really good. I'm gonna build that. And I was like, yeah, dude, it's really good. Try it out. And then after that, you just steamrolled everybody at our locals with CMH Briar. You like played that nonstop until basically Chain came into the
Pretty
meta.
much. Yeah. Yeah. Until I think the errata, and then I switched to like Viscera and Chain. So I played Runebait for a while after that. Yeah.
Yeah, we've kind of like shared sort of hero pools as our careers have gone on. Like I started a little bit before you, like I would say like a couple months, but we basically have both played the same heroes. We've both played Briar, we've both played Chain, and then we've both played Iyslander, kind of like in like order in terms of like when they LL too. Like I feel like we
Yeah, I think
played Briar, and then they balanced her a little bit with Ball Lightning, so we both moved on to Chain, and then Chain LL, so we both moved on to Iyslander, and then Iyslander LL, so we both moved back to Briar. It was pretty funny.
yeah, I think we kind of diverged from there. I think you started boosting, and I went with Azalea. So
Yeah, yeah. I had I guess I had the Tekla Foundry Heart, you had the Skullbone Cross Wraps, and we kind of had the split in the road right
yeah,
there. So yeah, I saw
okay.
Twin Drive, I saw Double Boost, and you saw Codex of Frailty. I mean, I'm not too far behind you. You know, I started playing Riptide a little
You
bit
played
more.
Riptide, yeah, Riptide, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about Azalea. I think the Ranger defensive Ranger trap classes just speaks to me on a fantasy basis.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. So that's John. We both play on just to mention too. We both play on the Arcane Games and Events Pro team. We've played in the circuit all year long. Unfortunately, not to rag on John a little bit too, but he just finished outside the Players Championship. But how was your journey all year long throughout the age events, like monthly? Like, how did you do? Do you have any like funny stories from this year in terms of like the Arcane Games and Events like circuit?
I think actually I attended every single event. Like I think I'm all. I'm the only one. I think Justin told me that I've been to all events last year and this year. So like so it's kind of like a pretty poor performance for me because I didn't make the Players Championship after being in every single event. But yeah, I was so close many times, like close to top eights and like just out of points. I think I just was hopping on too many decks all year and I didn't really like find a deck that I consistently played. But it was still fun. I love going out to those events. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it also speaks to not only obviously your struggles with some of the games, but like also I think the competition just got a lot better. Like everyone started playing more competitively. Every round, became more of like a cutthroat match rather than just kind of steamrolling. I feel like now as AGE kind of cements itself as a circuit that people know about, more and more of these more devoted players are coming out to play. So the competition is definitely getting more and more fierce. I feel like
Yeah,
I
yeah, for sure.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Charles Dunn is now regular, and a bunch of the guys from Vegas always drive over. So it's definitely been a lot harder than last year.
Yeah, I remember, not to rag on year one or anything, but I remember like going to an AGE top 80 and be like, yeah, this is just a regular thing. But I was also struggling to get points till the end. Like I was technically not even qualified until that last that last weekend down in San Diego, where
Oh,
I
okay.
fortunately got to top eight on Dash IE, and we all remember that game where I got OTK'd by that combo that Brody played
Yeah,
out.
you
Yeah,
got
but
you got the cards banned, right?
yeah, yeah. I
That's
was
the
I was the martyr. I was the martyr. I think he played like four
for sure.
ban cards before he actually attacked me, so that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, we're excited for year three. I'm super excited for all the events that Justin's about to put out, and we're gonna both be there. And so feel free to come out to AGE, come see us, come see all of the AGE Pro team and all of the regular players that come play, and come compete. It's gonna be super fun. And I think all year long, from January all the way to August and the Players Championship, there's going to be people out there grinding. So it's going to be super fun.
Yeah, I'll be
Sweet.
there.
Yeah, yeah, we'll both be there. Hopefully, we'll both be top 16 this time.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to head right into the Commoner Battle Hardened. So we're going to bring up John's deck here, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the deck, his deck choices, and why eventually he brought Iyslander. Sweet.
Okay.
So we got the deck here. So a little anecdote for those that don't know. We both started practicing basically a week before this event, and we were like, hey, dude, we got to play Commoner just in case we suck at CC, right? And we were both like, let's play Iyslander. I think it's a good deck. We were play testing a little bit at locals, and we kind of refined the deck, and we can talk about it now. But I did a last-minute pivot. I played Ira because I was not confident in Iyslander, but John stayed true. He committed to Iyslander, and he ended up winning the entire dang thing. He did not lose a single round. He won 10 straight games. So, John, take it away. Let us know a little bit about why you chose Iyslander, why you think she's so strong in Commoner.
Yeah. Well, I guess a little bit of history with me with the Commoner Farm. I know you said we started playing it like a week after, which is true. That's when we started place testing. But I started thinking about the commoner format. Like I remember in PTLA over here in Los Angeles. So what happened there is I ended up not making day two of the PT, so I ended up playing the calling. And oh my god, I was not having a good time in that calling. I ran Azalea back and I was getting destroyed, like drawing like all buff hands and missing all my like blind Azaleas. And then in the middle of the day, I think they made an announcement that there was a winner of the commoner gold foil side event, and the winner was I think Mark Lewis, one of our local players here. And they said he was playing Iceland. I was just like, what the heck? Why didn't I play that instead of getting destroyed during the calling?
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, like I guess next time there's PT and there's this commoner side event, I'll play that one. So and after that, so because I love playing Iyslander. So like if there's a format she's legal in and she's good, I'll play her. So the next opportunity that came was PT Amsterdam. There
Hmm.
was also a commoner gold. I guess every PT now has a commoner gold full side event. So
Yeah.
at that time I did plan. I was thinking of like bringing a commoner deck to Amsterdam, but I ended up not doing that instead because there was a Battle Hardened Living Legend event,
Hmm.
which Iyslander was also legal on. And at that time, I think she was a good deck in LL. But so I ended up just uh, testing that instead of the commoner. So I didn't bring a commoner deck, played the Battle Hardened instead, and I did well. I top eighted that event. So.
Yeah. I feel
And then
like
a
you
world, yeah, yeah.
feel like you've always kind of like been on the outside. Like you've always thought about Iyslander and Commoner, and you're like, dude, I love her in CC. Why not play her in Commoner? I love her in Living Legend. Why not play her in Commoner? But you've always like never played just because the big tournaments have never lined up that way. But
Yeah,
now
because
that you
yeah,
kind of have that opportunity, you just went ham.
yeah, because I have to test for the PT as well. So like the commoner would just be a side testing, and I couldn't test for commoner and living legend at the same time on the side. So ended up just focusing on living legend in Amsterdam. But then Worlds Osaka, at that time I didn't want to play Icelander living legend because I knew like she wasn't probably in the best position. So I ended up just deciding to play commoner instead in Osaka. I saw it more like I knew there was gonna be a battle hardened commoner event in Portland. So like I saw it more like it just test things out, see how the format is by playing on the side event at Worlds because I know it's gonna at the Worlds obviously there's gonna be a lot of people there. So yeah, so I ended up not making day two Worlds. So like I put a commoner deck quickly on the side and played the side event. And it was pretty fun. Like my first version of the deck was a lot more offensive. Like I had like Scar for Scars, and I had the Glide Gauntlet instead of the Ironhide Gauntlet, and less defensive tools. And in that side event, I pretty much lost to a KO and a dash. I got destroyed. I went I picked first both times, and just on their first turn, they just outputted so much damage, and I couldn't defend it, and ended up falling behind. So those were my two losses in the side event in Osaka. But after that event, like I thought more about the deck and what I need to change for Portland, and this is how it ended up. And the base of this came from actually the winning deck from that event. I think his name is Pavel. I did talk to him a little bit during the event, but his deck is pretty much like close to what I ended up with for Portland, which is a lot more defensive. It had eight for scenes, doesn't have Glide Gauntlet, doesn't have Scar for Scar. So I think the way that the deck is configured is like against the aggro deck, you just want to survive until just keep your deck in life parity until you like get to the end game where Icelander's pretty strong because like she can like do damage on the other of your opponent's turn. So
Yeah, and you don't have tools like Storm Striders in LL or CC to kind of close out the game, but you do have cool cards like Snapback, which we'll get into, and there's a lot of ways to kind of manipulate a lot of arcane at the end state as well. So she can definitely still
mm,
catch you by surprise. Like when you're sitting around like 8 or 9 health, you're still in lethal kill range for Icelander. So it's pretty interesting that you kind of had to morph the deck this way in terms of not having Storm Striders, the legendary. But it still does input a lot of damage on your opponent's turn. So let's get right into the sideboard, the sort of equipments that you're running, and then we'll move on from there with the main deck as well. So tell us why you went with the three Ironhides, Waning Moon, and Spellfire Cloak.
yeah, so I think like that's like the version I played in Osaka had no Ironhide Gauntlet, had Goliath Gauntlet instead for offensive output.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like I needed to go more defensive, like just try to survive against these aggro decks. So I ended up using the full Ironhide equipment suite, just you ended up sometimes with floating resources in Iyslander a lot. Like and then just using that one extra resource to defend for two is like pretty big. And also like sometimes you can just emergency block for six with one card, right? But you can't do if you only have two of them. So I think the three Ironhide is like a really good configuration if you like against like the aggro decks in the format. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just about to ask that. I was about to ask how often do you find yourself with one floating? You know how the math works out in Iyslander, where you play a blue card from your arsenal. You want a waning moon as well, pitching a blue. So you usually you want to do like a zero cost out of your arsenal to be able to waning moon, and then also use the one floating for an Ironhide block. So I was gonna ask you to see how often that came up, but it seems like it did pretty often.
Yeah, it had a few like sometimes you have to like fuse with a frosting, and so you play out the frosting zero cost and waning moon, then you have one. And also it came out a lot where I drew the brothers in arms, so you have one, you pay for the brothers in arms and use the other two for the other iron hides.
Yeah, and you're blocking eight with that combo.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's a
yeah. Brothers in arms too was an addition to the deck. I didn't have that before, so
Yeah, it's just like all the basically all the good commons and all basically all the good commons from the actual deck itself, just finding its way into the Iyslander deck. So why the Spellfire Cloak over like another piece of Ironhide?
I think yeah. It was Spellfire Cloak I ran. It's like pretty much you run it every time. Just the extra resource
Mm-hmm.
is really key in Iyslander because like if you have to play your two cost at the end game, like two cost from Arsenal, but you can still waning moon. So like I guess the ice bolt, that's a two cost in this deck. You don't have emeritus, but I guess it's mostly ice bolt. That you can run it with. It also had some use cases like if I get winters, if my opponent plays a blue winter's bite, I can just pop it and pay for it. And then you can even use it just to use pop that and block with an Ironhide or a Brothers in Arms. So it's really good, and it also has AB1 first, so you can go AB4 against the Wizard Mirror.
Yeah, I think it's just everything you kind of want. Like it's an AB piece if you want it, and then getting that extra resource when it's not your turn is pretty pivotal because on your turn you're basically just playing a 3 for 8. You're playing this, it's very mathy attack where you're spending 3 mana to do some sort of damage, whether it be Aether Ice Vein Fuse or Aether Hail with Waning Moon or just an attack. But on defense, when it's your opponent's turn, you want your math to kind of be very versatile, and this is why probably the Ironhide legs and Ironhide Helm Gauntlet are all super good because they're versatile blocks, and the Spellfire being the most versatile one, being able to give you one resource at instant speed to use on anything in your deck is pretty nuts.
Yeah, I can use it for Cold Snap and Polar Blast as well if you want to have a 5 card hand. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like works out so well in this deck.
yeah, and then to round out the main equipment, obviously you have the Waning Moon. Is there any consideration for any other wand or staff that she can run? Maybe even Talishar, like, or is Waning Moon just the play?
No, I think yeah, just winning one is just with Iyslander is just a good match. Like I don't think there's any you consider any other weapon, at least in the commoner version. I don't even know which one is legal. Is it I guess Crucible? But yeah, I don't. What other weapon? I guess Talishar too, but no, I think winning one is just so much better.
Yeah, I think there's just it's good on your turn. It's good on your opponent's turn. And there's not really a weapon that can kind of contest that. A lot of like I think the common stuff is just I think during the main phase for an action. So I don't think there's anything that contests Waning Moon, at least damage wise and versatility wise.
Yeah, yeah, just one of the best weapons ever printed. I think, and no matter what format. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. All right, going into the sideboard for the equipment at least. So for equipment, you just basically ran the three null runes. Obviously, this is probably for the mirror or the wizard matchup. How
Yep.
important do you think AB4 is in that matchup?
I think AB4 is important because you can just do a cover four of a fused Aether Ice Vein, red, and then have two floating to pay for the effect. I don't think it's too bad when you go down to AB3. I think it came up in my semis where I popped my chest early and ended up just being on AB3. But I don't know if it made a difference in that match, but or I had taken extra damage because I was down to AB3. But I think AB4 is like at least to start with, it's good.
Yeah, I feel like with my time in Iyslander too, AB3 versus AB4 didn't really come up that often. Especially because I think the math revolved around more around coordinate peak. Being in the format with CC and LL, being able to keep channel around and forcing your Iyslander opponent to pay one was really key sometimes. Um, but in this sort of format, it does kind of without any better options, I think, from the headpiece at least. Um, I think it's AB4 is pretty good because I think it kind of invalidates Aether Ice Vein Yellow in terms of
Mhm.
damage wise, but maybe it's
Sure.
still the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
math, right? Because you're still probably going to be giving up two cards.
Yeah, because you have to face the waning moon after anyway. So yeah, it might end up being the same at 3 or 4, at least with uh with with just pitching 6. Like you still stop just 4 damage.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe there's some like incidental waning moon damage that you can avoid, but like you said, that one game where you popped your cloak pretty early, AB3, still pretty good math on most of these spells.
Yep.
Okay, cool, awesome. So pretty minimal sideboard and equipment. That means that you get a little bit more space um, in your equipment or in your card suite, so you can run a little bit more sideboard. So let's get right into the main board. Let's go over your choice of red cards in the main board. So going through it, we got stuff like Aether Hail, Aether Ice Vein is a staple. You're running 6 of those. We got both Sync and Fate Foreseen. And then we have the big attacks that Icelander's known for: Vandal's Fighting Spirit, Raging Onslaught, and Wounded Bowl. And then we got, rounding out the last one, everyone's favorite card, Snapback, which is basically Storm Striders in uncommon. So let's go over the sort of red suite that you have. Let's start with the attacks. So what made you run these 6 attacks? What made you run 6 attacks in general, and why these in specific?
Yeah, so well, these are, I think they're the best like 2 for 7 attacks, or sometimes for Final Fighting Spirit and Wounded Bull, like 2 for 8s. Final Fighting Spirits actually got downshifted in Rosetta, so like you can now play it in Commoner, and it's such a big addition to the deck. I think the first iteration we were playing it, we had another 3 for 8 or 2 for 7 with Battlefront Bastion, but I found that it was a little bit too much. Like sometimes you end up drawing way too many attacks, and so I found that like a sweet spot to be on 3. Um, but yeah, so if they print another 3 for 8s that can replace the Raging Onslaught, that will slot right in. But I like six is good, but like Final Fighting Spirit and Wooded Bull is just staples in Iyslander.
Yeah, there's technically another 3 for 8 out there. It does require your
Oh,
opponent not to block with 2 cards, but Barraging Brawnhide has seen its time in the sun. I played it a little bit in Riptide, but was there any consideration for running that card in Iyslander, or do you think the commoner format is just too blocky?
yeah, I think it's too block. I did see some Iyslander running it, or maybe even Iris. I think I saw some Iris running it over the
Jeez.
weekend. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a very mathy card, but it does require your opponent not to block with 2 cards, and I feel like in commoner it's so back and forth. It's so like math involved where you're trying to eke out as much value as you can from these commons that you're most of the time going to be blocking with 2 cards.
yeah, and I think just the just the 3 blocking Raging Onslaught is. I think it's still worth over like potential 1 more damage on the Bronhide.
Yeah. All right. And then let's get into the defense reaction. So we've seen Sink Below basically in every deck in this format. We haven't seen a lot of Fate Foreseen in Iyslander yet. So why use the 4 defense reactions?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think the way that Iyslander can like keep up with the aggro decks is just like survive and be more defensive. Um, Especially like with Brothers in Arms as well, and then the equipment suite. Like you just want to like Iyslander usually just wants to like keep life parity with your opponent until you get to the end game. So like the way I do that, like otherwise like Chain, I think, and Ira will just like output so much damage that you fall behind, and Iyslander will like struggle if you're behind. So like having these defense reaction to keep your life total up, like and get to that end game where you're when you're in a obvious advantage because of your spells on their turn is like important. So yeah, that's one of the additions that I had based on my first draft, and I think it worked out really well. Like having the 4 defense reactions is, I think it's really key to keeping up with with damage
Yeah, and
from your aggro opponent. Yeah.
yeah, and then I think in this format you're not plagued by the threat of CNC or any like anti defense reaction sort of threats. So I feel like you're just free to always run Sink Below and Favor Scene. Is that something that you agree with in terms of like just running
Yeah.
basically these in every deck?
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of Arsenal hate or I mean, even defense reaction. I think wreck havoc. I don't even know if
I
that's a
think that's a
common.
rare, yeah.
That's a rare. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I did. There are some points in the tournament where I was thinking, oh, maybe there's a CNC coming. Then I remember, oh yeah, this we're playing commoner. There's no CNC coming, so I'm free to just like hold on to these. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
But yeah.
before an Iyslander, you're a little bit hesitant to like Arsenal these favorite CNC belows just because you can't play on your turn, and the threat of CNC kind of negates all the value you can get. But I feel like in this format, you're just free to always be able to Arsenal one of these and just get insane amounts of value off.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Sweet. All right, and lastly for the red spells, let's or the red cards. Let's go over the spells. So we got red Aether Hail, red Aether Ice Vein, and then Snapback. Like I said, let's go left to right. So why Aether Hail?
Aether Hail, I think I kind of struck like going back and forth whether Aether Hail or Photon Splicing should be in the main board
Mm-hmm.
because they both have like different like use cases. Like the discard on the Photon Splicing gives you extra reach in the end, which is good. But Aether Ice Vein gives you like more consistency in your fuses. So like you do have a few targets 8. So the all the Aether Ice Veins and the Brain Freezes.
Mm-hmm.
So you do need some amount of density of ice cards. So they're essentially the same card, just a little bit different uses. So I can see going back and forth whether splicing and or Aether Hail is gonna be on the main board. You can even run both. Like I would run both if I'm not playing against aggro. I would side out the Fate for Scenes and put in the splicings. Um, but I guess for like main board, I just stick with Aether Hail just because it's a nice card and you just yeah, I want to fuse the Aether Ice Vein as much as I can. So.
Yeah, I think playing around your Aether Ice Vein is probably super pivotal. It's probably your strongest card in your deck in terms of Iyslander and Commoner. So playing around it, being able to fuse more often is always super good. Is there any merit to running, rest in peace, my boy Scalding Rain, the generic one for 4. But is there any like merit to running stuff like Aether Quickening? Like you have the blue one in your deck. Did you put any
Yeah.
thought into the red one?
Yeah, I thought about also running a bunch of a version of the deck that's running a lot more of, or even maxing out on the 1 for 4s.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's more important. I think having the attacks, a mix of the attacks and the red spells is important. So right now the deck is configured to have like 6 big attacks and six red attacks and 6 red spells. I just wanted to keep a mix, so like having it mixed, like mixed damage, like because I guess in commoner like you're there's not a lot of equipment that has arcane barrier and block at the same time. Like a lot of your opponents will have to make a choice whether they go with AB or blocking equipment, right? So like having a mix of these two like really puts them in a different bind depending on what they brought in for the matchup. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember playing it a little bit before I swapped to Ira. I was playing Iyslander, a pretty similar deck list, if not the same one. And then they kept blocking with Sync Below from Arsenal. I'm like, dude, what if we just played all arcane cards? They were just literally Arsenal, Sync Below, or Favor Scene, and they just would not have an Arsenal for the rest of the game because you would never attack them. But I kind of wimped out of that version because I just didn't have the cards with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that too that you can build all arcane, but then again, like if they bring a lot of AB and no armor, you get a lot more value with the attack. So it's like you want a mix of them depending on the matchup, and I think a 3-for-3 mix is good.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. I think if especially if they're respecting and have the equipment slots for AB3, the attacks obviously get a little bit better. But I think if they're like maximizing on AB1 and they're just trying to go full aggro, I think a plan of just all arcane could get there. Obviously, you're missing a lot of like defensive tools that help you stop the. Instead of like having more value, you're trying to do more arcane and disruption. But a lot of the disruption also comes from majestics like channel like Frigid, Blizzard. So you're not missing many of these. So I'd be interested to see if there's like an all arcane version of Iyslander too, able to kind of replicate the sort of value that you get from this sort of Iyslander deck.
Sure, yeah, sure. There's still a lot more exploration that can be done. I know it's a very unexplored format, so I'm sure there's a lot of different deck lists that we can try out if there's another event. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that's all the reds basically. Let's kind of get into the
I guess
blues. Oh,
I
what?
guess one thing is the snapback,
Oh,
which I think
yes, I
is a
forgot
real
about the snapback.
yeah. I think it's really a key card in the deck. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically your your main way of like I guess since you don't have storm striders is your main way of like doing damage in their turn or even like a combo finish, right? So I think a snapback is key to the deck, and I don't know if the deck will be as good without it. It's just having the security of snapback at the end game is just really good. And my plan into fatigue is just to utilize snapback. I didn't play any fatigue matchups over the weekend, but if I ever did, like my plan was just like to pitch stack combo with either Ice Vein Red or a big 3 for 7 attack on my turn, and then on their turn maybe Ice Bolt, Waning Moon, and then snap back to like to kill them. Um, so I snapback's pretty much your like pseudo Storm Striders in this deck, and it really does well in that role. Yeah.
Yeah, how many people did you kill with snapback over the weekend? Did you kill anyone with snapback?
Yeah, for sure. I think at least two. Yeah, at least two. And one like I killed with the Waning Moon, but if they beat it, the snapback would have been coming anyway. So it was like
Yeah.
another extra security. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this card basically, like you said, is the pseudo Storm Striders. You kind of have to worry about it until you finally see both of them. So you're always kind of wary of when these extra 3 damages, these extra instances of 3 damage are coming in. So it's a pretty lethal card. I've also found myself getting a lot of people down on Arcane Barrier, or they're trying to fatigue, and then you just kind of pitch stack and get there with the combo as well. So I think it's a pretty good inclusion in the deck, and I think it makes the deck even a little bit more versatile than it already was. It is 1 less damage than like another 1 for 4, but do you think that the versatility of the second paragraph, where you can just play it as an instant if you play another wizard card, do you think that's worth more than the 1 damage trade off?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think I rarely ended up casting it on my turn. I mostly cast it on the opponent's turn. If I do see it early, I'll just pitch it to the bottom and just see it on second cycle.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah, I don't
sense.
think over the weekend I ever cast it on my turn. Well, I guess if your hands line up that way, it's still okay. Like 3 for 5. I mean 2 card 5. If that lines up, so
And at the very worst, you could just block 3.
true. Yeah, it is a block 3, and I think I ended up do blocking with snapback in a few of my matches.
Yeah, I mean, just a super versatile card, really strong for a common. There's a reason why Kano used to do the combo with this card. So, pretty strong card to be able to allow you to do in commoner. Kind of
Yeah, I think
gets around
yeah, I
the
think
Storm
it's still
Striders.
banned in Blitz, right? It's still banned in Blitz
It's still, I think
at
it is
this
still
time,
Black and Blitz,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a
But yeah.
pretty insane card.
Yep.
Sweet, awesome. Now we're done with all the reds. Apologies for that. We're gonna get right into the blue count. So there's some pretty typical blues that we see in here, like Brain Freeze, Cold Snap, Frosting. All the ice cards, pretty typical. Let's go over some more atypical cards that you see in this sort of deck, as compared to obviously there's Majestics missing, so you can't play stuff like Channel Like Frigid, Frost Hex, Ice Eternal, which is a rare, Blizzard. So you kind of had to supplement the deck with a little bit more creative options in terms of the blue count. So let's go over to start off with Aether Quickening. So why Aether Quickening?
Aether Quickening is basically just a two, I guess, 2 and 5 damage in their turn, right?
Yeah.
Like you never really get the surge out. It's very rare. Like you have to like do a amp it with a splicing. I don't think it ever comes up, at least in a game of commoner. But I think I just needed like I even cut 8 scalding rain from the deck, just because most of the time you don't really want to send arcane on their turn. You prefer to like arsenal like a polar blast or a cold snap,
Mm-hmm.
at least in the early game, like the Aether Quickenings and the Aether Hails and like the 2 damage spells. You want to do them like closer to the end game than the start. So you still want like a density of them to have. So this deck runs at I guess 6 of the 1 for 2 blues. Send 5 damage on your opponent's turn.
Yeah, I do agree too. I think that it's just a blanket sort of just damage spell, and it's probably better late game when they have to start blocking you, rather than early game where they could just take the damage and send their full hand. You probably prefer the disruption from like a cantrip like Cold Snap or Polar Blast, or if you want to rather play like Aether Hail, like you said, that gives you a frostbite stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sweet, awesome. Now the next card is Brothers in Arms. So this has been in and out of Iyslander decks for a while. Glad to see that it made its way back to Commoner. We know of its defensive capabilities with the math adding up to using all the resources to block. It blocks 8 if you use 2 Iron Hides as well. If you have 1 floating, you could just block with this card. Did you ever find yourself attacking with Brothers in Arms using the left side of the card?
Not in the Battle Hardened, but in CC, I remember I've attacked with this quite a few times. But here it didn't line up. But I guess it's like in the end, if you're in the end game and that's your only attack you draw, it's still good, like a 4 damage though. But not in this tournament. But I can see myself like if I play a lot of games to ended up attacking with it in the end game, in some scenarios.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah, this.
oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was about to say, in the Iyslander mirror, in CC at least, it was actually very good to attack with Brothers in Arms sometimes because you're just doing physical damage rather than giving them Alluvian counters. So it's pretty funny to see like a commoner, like a format like Commoner, where it's like super bad for you to attack with Brothers in Arms because you're trying to do the most math you can. But in CC, it's so like hyper relevant sometimes when you attack with Brothers in Arms.
Yeah, and I guess I actually didn't have Brother Syndrome also in the first draft. I added it after like running some games with our teammate Moises. We ran some IRA and Iyslander games, and I ended up putting it in just also like another use case is to like to break the needles with IRA because it comes in for 3 on the second attack, and like the 4 block on the Brother Syndrome breaks it if you don't draw your D-React in that in some spots.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, super versatile card and having an attack that can block for 4 or swing for 4, always pretty good.
Yeah, good card, good card.
Sweet, awesome. So we're gonna skip photon splicing for now because you do have the red ones in your sideboard as well. I actually kind of want to talk about Winter's Bite. So there was a little bit of consideration with the team too, in terms of either running Winter's Bite blue or running Arctic Incarceration blue. Just because it gives you 2 frostbites. But Winter's Bite sometimes doesn't do a lot. If they don't have cards in hand, they could just choose to discard. Winter's Bite does have a bit of a more offensive capability where you can play on their turn and then make them pay or discard a card and then do something after. So you can go a little bit wider. So how did you find blue Winter's Bite to be in your tournament run?
Oh, I think it went great. I rarely casted it on my opponents, and I try to avoid arsenaling Winter's Bite. I think it's most use case I guess is mostly just playing it on your turn if you get stuck with a 4 card hand or 3 card hand because it has go again, so it enables you to like play out your hand instead of giving yourself an IP, right? And just making them discard and attacking with a 3/4/7 or a 3/8. I think it's just one of the best plays you can make in a format like this.
Yeah. I think it just goes back to like how versatile you want the deck to be. Like Arctic Incarceration, if you arsenal it, will always be 2 frostbites. Sometimes that doesn't even matter, but being able to use Winter's Bite in a versatile way where you can play it on offense main phase or have the option to play it as a defensive tool with the frostbite in the worst case scenario is a pretty good inclusion, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think I did. If you're not unhappy to arsenal it, but you much prefer playing it on your turn and then following up with a big attack.
Yeah, at the very worst, if you arsenal it, you could just not play it and then on your turn play it from arsenal too.
True. Yeah. That comes up as well.
Yeah. Just using the simple main phase Winter's Bite.
Yeah, and in this format, you don't have tunic, right? Because so they can just pay the tax with a tunic, so they actually have to like pitch your card or discard, and then you send a big attack, and they're gonna have to be taking damage or using up their whole hand.
Yeah, and you mentioned before too, with the prevalence of the Spellfire Cloak from Iyslander. If you play this on their turn, or actually no, it doesn't work like that, right? Because it's their turn. So the counter to Winter's Bite, I guess, would be Spellfire Cloak. Because then if you play it on main phase, they could always just respond with the Spellfire Cloak if they really wanted to keep all their cards.
For sure, yeah. I think that did happen in one of my matches. It might have been against Brody, like in the finals where he played the Winter's Bite against me and I used the cloak to pay for the tax.
That is a sweet interaction. Sweet, yep. Awesome. And then the last blue and the /red as well, we have Photon Splicing, which came out in Rosetta. So this new card, it is just another 1-for-2, like you said, with Aether Quickening, but instead of getting a Surge mechanic, you discard this to Amp 1, which would deal 1 more arcane damage on your next source of arcane. So tell us a little bit about why you chose Photon Splicing and why the Amp matters so much.
Yeah, the Photon Splicing, I think, is a big addition to the deck from Rosetta. At least in the commoner format, like having that extra amp, like to give you reach in the end game, because most your opponents will only have AB3. So just having a way to go over AB3 and deal that extra point of damage at the end is important. I think both of my top four match and the finals ended up with me sending out Waning Moon, discarding Arcane Polarity to just get that 1 point of damage to kill them. So this is like pretty much like an MVP of the weekend, I think, to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like at the very worst, it's always just another spell you can throw out of arsenal. But the fact that you can get to these really high damage numbers past AB3, past the normal AB is kind of insane.
Yeah, I think a lot, especially in the finals against Oldham, I was pretty much checking my graveyard to see how much arcane photon splicing I have left, just to see, because I was concerned of getting fatigued there, especially the end game that we ended up. Like I was really in danger of fatigue, and the fact that I still had one blue splicing that I pitched early, like gave me like at least an out to go over their just if they're just pitching AB3. So I know there's still one more way for me to go over that last point of damage.
Yeah, yeah, pretty interesting stuff. And then lastly, the last card you decided to include in your deck was Arcane Polarity. There's a lot of discourse, I feel like, with old commoner decks where people were running Oasis as a way to prevent 4 damage. But instead, I feel like people are starting to adopt this zero cost spell instead, where instead it gains you 1 life, but if you've been dealt Arcane this turn, it gets you 4. So, did you play a lot at all with Oasis Respite, and what was the difference between that card and Arcane Polarity itself?
Oh, it's such a big difference. I actually had Oasis Respite all the way like to the Thursday before we flew out, and then but after we played those sets after the Armory where you ran Arcane Polarity against me and had Oasis Respite instead, it's just Arcane Polarity just did so much better. Like because you don't have to pitch for it, it's just a 0 for 4, and you can like if on a mirror if they attack you turn 0, and you can just like start the game with like 23 life, or I guess 21 life. Yeah, because you have to take at least one. But like you can't do that with Oasis, right? You can just prevent their arcane. So I think Arcane Polarity was a key addition to the deck, and yeah, thanks to to I guess your the games that we ran that I ended up adding this to the deck. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this card is so nasty. Like I remember practicing a little bit with Iyslander. I was like, they have AB3. I'll just send out a yellow Aether Ice Vein, and just unfuse, so they don't have to. They don't get to filter as many cards if they want to. So I would just send 4. They would AB3 take 1, and then double Arcane Polarity to heal 8. And now they're at like 27. You're like, what the heck just even happened? Like, did I just mess up because I just dealt arcane damage, which feels like the right play, but now you have to kind of play around this card now.
Yeah, this was just like good against Chain as well. Like you can't run Oasis again. I guess you can run Oasis against Chain, but it doesn't get the same value. It's just taking one rune chant and then gaining 4 back.
Yeah, it also fully heals the Rosetta damage.
Yeah, fully heals the Rosetta. Yeah, it came up many times. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
instead
just
of
take one ping from Seeds of Agony, play Arcane Polarity, and just counteract a bunch of the damage that what you would have taken otherwise.
yeah, I think it's just super versatile, and it costing 0 is really good just because it's basically another versatile version of Sink Below or Fate Foreseen as a defensive tool without having to put any pitch towards it.
Yep. Yeah. So this came in against the Mirror, obviously Wizard Mirrors, and against Shin.
Yeah, sweet. I mean, that's basically all the arcane damage. Most of them, I guess. Did you play any arcane matchup that weren't Chain or Icelander?
Uh, uh, I guess. Okay, we'll go over it in the matchups, but I had a round 2 match against Kano.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll see how that goes as well. So we're gonna get right into the matchups. Like I said before, John did not lose a single match all weekend. He went 7-0 day one. Day one. He went 7-0 in Swiss to top 8, and then he breezed by top 8 as well, just winning the last 3 matches. So he didn't lose a single game on Commoner that day. So let's go right into the matchups. So we're going to basically go round by round. John's going to tell us a little bit about each round, whatever he remembers at least. So apologies if you're not remembering correctly, John, just because I made you wait a little bit. But just tell us a little bit about each character that you played and like a little bit about the matchups too. So let's go right into round 1. You played against an Ira. Tell us a little bit about the Ira matchup and the result.
Yeah, so I guess against Ira, after like playing some games with our team, I do think that Icelander is favored into Ira. Like it's probably the matchup you want to see. Um, I just think that your value is just better, and then um, like they can't really do much against your arcane damage in the end. I think this one don't quite remember too much about this game because it was round one. I did remember that I ended up killing them with a snapback in the end. Uh, yeah, I don't remember too much about this game, but I think it was a pretty comfortable win for me.
Just another victim of the snapback, Storm Strider's light strategy right there.
Yes, yes, yeah. This
Yeah,
definitely this war round. I definitely killed him with snapback. I remember that one.
and shout out to teammate Moises too, giving you a lot of practice against Ira, which is going to be probably well represented. We thought it was going to be well represented in this sort of event. And he was such a good teammate in showing off Ira that he even convinced me to swap over to Ira. So I think it was a good
Yeah.
pick. I think that we saw a couple variants too. Like I was playing the one with the Tiger form, kind of like all the Tiger stuff. But there's ones that were
Okay.
just running the generic stuff, like Stony Wootenhog. It's pretty crazy, pretty versatile deck in itself.
Yeah, there's definitely many ways to build it. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think it's the most represented on this tournament. Right? I need to check, but I think it's definitely Iyslander and Ira was one and two. I don't know which order.
yeah. Definitely not surprised by Ira showing up. I think it's just she's been in Commoner for so long, and I feel like she is still strong to this day, especially with all the new cards she can play.
Mhm.
All right, getting into my favorite matchup in CC, Kano versus Iyslander. So tell us a little bit about how you dominated this Kano.
Yeah, actually, funny story about this one. It's probably the I guess in any tournament that you ended up winning or like a run, like sometimes like it doesn't just you don't know how just to play well and everything, but sometimes the breaks have to go away. That's how I felt that way in some of the local tournaments that I win and that one AG open that I ended up winning. And this is I think one of the first times where I thought, oh my god, this day is gonna be like probably like the FAB Gods are with me because this ended up being just a weird round because we ended up being deck checked after we presented our decks, and then I ended up having a deck list error in my deck because I think I put Scalding Rain instead of Aether Quickening because they're just both the same to me. So I quickly scribbled them. So after the deck check, the judge told me, "Oh, you wrote down the wrong spell." I think I told him I just made a mistake. I thought it was the same card, but yeah, it's still a deck list error, and you're gonna get an IP2. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna play IP2 against the Kano. I'm gonna be so toast." Like I do think that I would have been. I haven't really tested this matchup, but I do from my experience from Blitz and CC before that. I think it's Iyslander favored. My strategy was that just to employ the same like muscle memory gameplay that I used before. But yeah, but with an IP2, I thought I was like dead for sure. So like then so I came back to my seat, and then my opponent, the judge also called him, and I thought he was just gonna explain to them that he had an IP2, and then he would have to play against an IP2, but it took so long. Like I don't know what the heck happened, but ended up the judge ended up coming back and said, "Oh, your opponent also had an error in their deck list, but they're getting a match loss." So like I don't know what happened with their deck list. Either like they're much more severe than me. Maybe they had like some unlegal cards or something. But ended up like the IP2. I thought I was gonna be dead, but it ended up being mattering, and we ended up never playing the game. So I survived the IP2, and yeah, just one of those signs where I thought, oh my, maybe today's my day.
Wow, yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good alternative to you having your IP penalty and then the gods kind of gifting you a match win there with your opponent also um, receiving a match loss even. I wondered how that
Yeah,
matchup would go. Like, would you if you had an IP2, would you just sit there and pass and just
yeah.
hope?
I think my strategy was while I was waiting, this was just the first few turns, just pass everything and AB everything until we get back to like the same intellect. But yeah, it would have been rough if they. I don't even know how Kano actually plays in Commoner, but I'm assuming they still send a lot of like 1 for 5s or 2 for 5. But yeah, so I got away with that one. I hope my opponent. I wish I could have seen what their deck was. I hope they kept playing and like hurt some people in the next daily rounds.
Yeah, I mean, I was super curious to see how that matchup went too. Unfortunately, we did not get to see any gameplay, but now you are 2-0, facing off into another wizard, Iyslander Mirror. Tell us a little bit about this Iyslander Mirror experience.
Yeah, so this is my first mirror of the day. Iyslander. So my opponent here won the die roll. Actually, like in this tournament, I got to go second the whole tournament. Every time I won the die roll, I pick second, and when my opponents pick the die roll, they pick first. But I think in the way I wanted to play, at least my deck, I wanted to go second, and especially in the mirror, because you can't really do much turn zero against Iceland. Like you don't have any permanents to like set up, and you can't really like go over AB4 unless you waste like an ice green red without working. But even then, like you can't really do much turn zero. And my opponent actually chose to go first. I mean, go first, and yeah, they didn't do anything their turn, and I ended up just having the tempo from there. So I think a lot of it is also like a lot of matchup inexperience with a lot of us. Like most of us been playing like that was in the tournament, just playing a lot of these matchups for the first time. But I do think it's correct in the mirror to go second and be the first one to like present damage to your opponent.
Yeah, and I feel like in CC and LL, you have all these majestic permanents that you kind of want to set up that are super pivotal to winning the matchup, like Energy Potion and Frost Hex. Whereas in Commoner, you lack these sort of permanents that you want to play. So going second does make a lot of sense. Where you're not looking to do anything on the first turn, you're just looking to do the first damage, basically.
Yeah, you don't have Insidious Chill, you don't have Amulet of Ice.
True.
So yeah, nothing to set up, and then I guess they can play out of Arsenal first. But mostly what happens is you just send two cards to attack, save one for Arsenal, and then the other one can just barrier whatever they send. So I think it's still like an advantage to go second. And I ended up I think winning this game because from there on I just had the tempo the whole time.
Sweet. Yeah, and I mean, it just goes to show, a lot of experience in this mirror. I feel like any of the wizard mirrors, it all comes from muscle memory and just knowing what to do in the right scenarios. It is also unfortunately a lot of passing. I feel like there's just a lot
Yeah, a
of
lot
times
of
where you're
passion.
just like, I'm just gonna pass. My hand does nothing if I use it on offense, so I'm just gonna pass. If you respond, I'll just block everything. If you don't respond, I just get to Arsenal. So sometimes passing is the right move.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. And then now going into the next matchup. So, notoriously a sort of a bad matchup, I guess, in CC with how fast it goes. And I think even a little bit more fast in Commoner is Dash IE. So, this is the deck that actually made me not want to play Iyslander anymore because it was just felt so hard with Hyperdriver. So, tell me a little bit about the Dash matchup here and how you managed to squeak it out.
Yeah, so I think the dash matchup is actually the one I wanted to see the least. I think it's actually unfavored. I got destroyed by a dash in that side event in Osaka. It wasn't even close. But the way I think the setup that most dashes I've seen do is start with Hyperdriver as their I guess against Iyslander. I don't know if they do that against every matchup. But against Iyslander they start with Hyperdriver to get an extra resource. And then the weapon is the what is it called? The shotgun? What is that weapon called?
Plasma Barrel Shot, I think is the gun you're
Yeah,
referencing.
Plasma Barrel
Yeah.
Shot. Yeah. So that's what the setup of this my dash opponent on round four played. It was interesting. But I think a lot of it too, like a lot of these players that are playing now may not have been around during when Icelander's heyday, because I think they still take a lot of like from inexperience, a lot of inefficient plays against me. So maybe I had advantage at least for a lot of if you're a new player and you haven't played that much against Icelander, like maybe you can make some misplays. And my opponent definitely did. I think I ended up they were at 8. I attacked with a with a wounded bull or like a final fighting spirit, and they just took all 7 and went to 1. And when that happens, I feel like it's almost over. Like when you go back to your turn.
Yeah, yeah, that's the threat of Icelander, sort of like the mix of arcane and physical, and knowing when to take either. Playing around the arcane on your turn is always a pivotal point against Icelander. So inexperience will definitely show if you're playing against an experienced Icelander player like yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, squeak that one out. Yeah, I'm very happy to beat a dash. I was really like dreading that matchup all weekend. I played some side events the day before and I lost to a dash.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty interested in like the dash sort of build in Commoner. Like I played a lot of dash basically all this year in Classic Constructed, and there's so many different items you can start with, like Induction Chamber, Techlo Pounder, but those are all majestics or super rares, I guess, too, for
Mhm.
Chamber's case. But you can't run those in Commoner, so a lot of people look towards a Hyperdriver. Just to get those
Yeah.
extra resources early, and then just playing all the good boost cards that interact with Hyperdriver too.
Yeah. I think Hyperdriver works against Iceland. Extra resource helps you with against the frostbites.
Yeah, and I've
But
also
definitely
seen
correct. I'll
people.
play against Iceland.
Yeah, yeah. I've also seen people run like the Talus Shard just as a base 2 for 4 rather than running Plasma Barrel Shot, which requires you to keep more cards. So a lot of different builds with Dash, I think.
Yeah, I think Talishar is. I think against Iyslander probably would have been the correct weapon. I don't know if they had it in their deck, but Plasma Barrier Shroud I don't think did too much. 'Cause can't really boost a lot against Iyslander, especially if you're sending Frostbites their way.
Yep. Sweet, awesome. And then in round 5, you're still undefeated, and you still will continue to be, but we'll say it every round. So you're still undefeated. You're 4-0 going into another Ira. So the first Ira, I remember you saying was just like the generic Ira, correct? Like just not a lot of Tiger
Yeah,
stuff.
generic Iron.
Okay,
Yep.
sweet.
Yeah. So this round 5 actually has the Tiger stuff. I played against Naira. I think her name is Aurora. Actually, I was searching some videos. She did a deck tech on her own deck on the
Mm-hmm.
channel Flesh and Bad. Shoutouts to them.
Oh,
But
nice.
yeah, Flesh and Bad. But their configuration against me was AB1 on the head, and then all the Tiger stuff, head, chest. I mean, chest, legs, and arms. So just AB1, but I did notice quickly that they had a lot of the Arcane Polarity, Oasis Respites, and even Brush Off, like to mitigate the damage just being on AB1. But ended up being a comfortable win for me. I think I ended up stranding direct in their arsenal because I just wasn't drawing any attacks to begin with, and then so I was just sending arcane, and then once I got through a lot of the polarities, the oases and the brush off, and you're stuck with AB1, I just ended up like chipping them with arcane after that.
Yeah, that does sound like a pretty unique strategy, like just the prevention method, and then using AB1 as a stopgap to just force some a little bit more aggro. But when you're stuck with a defense reaction in your arsenal, you're limited to 4 card hands, 3 card hands, even sometimes when you have these prevention effects. So you're not pushing a lot of damage against Iyslander if you got a Fate Foreseen stuck or Sink Below stuck in your
Mhm.
arsenal.
Yeah. So yeah, lucked out there. Not I didn't read it. I just didn't draw the attacks
Yeah,
early,
yeah.
but
No, we'll pretend like you
can
Michael
happen
Hamilton
anytime.
read it. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
knew
yeah,
that defense reaction was there. You saw the tell
for
and
sure.
you went in for the kill, just doing only arcane for the rest of the game.
I did.
Sweet, awesome. And then now, winning against Ira, you're 5-0 now, still undefeated with 2 rounds left. You're basically pretty much locked for top 8 at this point, I think. Maybe you have to win
Yeah,
the
I do
sixth
remember
round.
Matt. Yeah, I think you still have to go XN1 because based on the number
I see.
of players. Yeah,
Okay, so you're not
I
locked
don't, I
yet,
don't, I
but
don't. Yeah, I don't think any X2s made the top 8, so you have to be X1. Yeah.
okay. So you for sure had to win this next round, but you knew that winning this round or the next round would be your winning into top 8 for the Battle Hardened. So now you face up against your first Oldham of the day. So tell me a little bit about preparation going into this match. Did you think it was going to be a more fatiguey matchup? Did you think he was going to go aggro? What were your thought processes in sideboarding, and how did you approach it?
Mm. Yeah, so I knew because I sat next to Brody on the round before that he wasn't quite on aggro Oldham. He was more of a so he wasn't quite on fatigue Oldham. He was more on an aggro build. Like there was another Oldham running around the same tables that was more on fatigue. So I was more scared of that version because I really did tech my deck to remove a lot of the more offensive options. Like I don't have Scar for Scars or Glide Gauntlet to like 2% more damage. So I felt more comfortable in the aggro version, and I knew that Brody was playing a lot more of the aggro version. So in that one, I felt like I had a better chance. So yeah, this is the actually the start of 5 matches I was on the stream on the feature table. So I've had really bad luck on featured matches this year. I think I lost every single one. So um, the beginning of the year, I got put in the Calling Queenstown round 1 on the calling, and I got destroyed. And then every time I got put in AGE, like once or twice, I think I lost both. So like it wasn't been a good year first 3 matches. So like I wasn't really. I don't really get nervous on stream or even playing big tournaments, but I don't know. It was just a coincidence that I was losing a lot of the stream matches. So, but I ended up making up for it in this tournament. 5 straight stream matches and won all 5. But yeah, so this is the first one. You can start watching them at the Dice Commando channel. They did record a lot of the matches. You were on one of the rounds. I
Yeah,
saw, yeah, because
yeah.
I
Well,
rewatched some of the coverage. Yeah.
just quick shout out to Dice Commando. I know they do a lot of like commoner content, so really shout out to them for really covering this sort of format and giving a lot of insight and a lot of preparation to everyone involved, kind of researching and using their channel as sort of like preparation for this sort of event. Yeah, I was also on stream once. I was lucky enough to win on stream, and I actually met one of their players, one of the Dice Commando players. His name was Kevin. He's a really nice guy. Portland local. He used to live in Orange County, so he used to be our local. But
Okay.
he lives in Portland now, and he's a super nice guy. He talked to me a little bit about the content they got going on at Dice Commando. So super fun round, and I'm glad that both of us got to go on stream, and all of us won. I mean, we between us we've won 6 stream games. Between us, let's just say that.
Between us,
Yeah,
I think Dennis lost his, but we're not
yeah,
counting
yeah.
him.
Between just us two, we're 6-0 on stream.
Yeah, yeah,
One of us played a lot more stream than the other, but we're both combined to be 6-0.
yeah, yeah. So this one you can watch the stream game. Ended up being I think I won. With still like 5 life. It wasn't. It went much better than I thought it would go. So I don't quite remember. I need to rewatch a lot of the matches, but it was ended up because I knew that he wasn't on fatigue. Like I was more aggro. Like I kind of like had a strategy in mind because I do think that even in CC before that it was an Iyslander favorite matchup. Like you just send a lot more efficient attacks compared to what Oldham can send. And then here, I think he ended up maybe not lining up blocks, but he died with 6 block left in equipment. I think he just didn't find an efficient way to block with equipment and still like use out his whole hand. I think it's just still 6 block that he had at the end there. Like he didn't block with his boots. I think he was running the civic steps and the shield and ended up like dying with still no counters in both. So
Yeah, it's really weird against Iyslander. Like you typically want to save your blocks for late game, where they get the most value in terms of on hits that you are wanting to not discard your hand for, or if you just want to get the value to be more versatile late game. But I feel like against Iyslander, you just kind of have to throw sometimes the armor in front just to save life, just because the threshold at which you could die at is a little bit higher than other heroes, just because of the ability to play on your opponent's turn. So I think it is usually correct to throw equipment in front of Iyslander attacks just because you don't know when the next one's coming. She doesn't really have any physical on hits, so I think you're most of the time just pretty safe to throw equipment in front of stuff.
yeah, I think in the rematch we had in the finals, like the first 2 attacks he did block with his equipment right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. We'll get more into the finals later because I feel like there's so much going on in the finals. He kind of like swaps the strategy as well. So excited to talk about that.
Yeah,
but you're now 6-0. You're now locked for top 8. John, John Zapata, Battle Hardened champion, always finally got to be the champion here. But you've played in so many Battle Hardened top 8s that this is probably just another day in the life of John Zapata now. But you're trying to get probably good seeding so that you can choose first or second. So you match up against Chain, who is a notoriously good deck in Commoner. A lot of people talking about how good Chain is. How did your matchup go? What was the preparation into this?
Yeah, so Chain is also one of the matchups I was like did not want to see. I feel like maybe Chain is favored in this matchup. I did watch our teammate Alex play some sets the night before, and I think he just got destroyed by Chain, right? And we were playing essentially the same list. Uh, so yeah, I think in this one, you can watch the match. I think I got pretty like lucky. His shackles didn't hit early, and so he missed the like shackle 1 and 2 both missed, and then by the time like he was hitting on a high shackle, like he couldn't play them all out, and he just took a lot of blood dead. Um, Also, the polarity was pretty good. Like giving them frostbites. I think frostbite stopped like at least 2 Rosetta swings in this matchup. So like just lining up frostbites well and arcane polarity, and then just missing on shackles on him in the early game. Like it gave me the win on this one. He ended up dying to blood dead because just couldn't play out like 3 blood dead cards out of his when he was at 1 already. So.
Yeah, I feel like this is the matchup where you have probably the least experience into because you've never really played Commoner before, and in CC these heroes never really like lined up with each other. Chain kind of LL before Iyslander came out or was strong, so these heroes never really overlapped in terms of their like life cycle. So this felt like a pretty fresh matchup to you guys. I assume.
Yeah, it was pretty fresh matchup, and I guess there's also different builds of Chain and Commoner. This one is more the Seeds version, no Rune Gate cards. Um, So this one, I think, and he ended up not like banishing any seeds. He had to play some from hand, and I think that's just so inefficient if it has to come from hand, right? Instead from the banish zone. So, yeah, I think the hands really lined up in my favor against this matchup.
Sweet. And once again, like you said, the FAB Gods kind of granting
Yeah,
you
yeah,
these good hands, these like opponents that are whiffing stuff. So everything's sort of going your way. You're 7-0 in Swiss. You know the announcement rings out throughout the room that the Battle Hardened results are done, and we just hear your name in
mhm.
first place. We're all cheering for you, and we're really hopeful that you win. We're not surprised that you top 8. I feel like you top 8 so many Battle Hardens that it's like just cookie cutter at this point, but you're really, really searching for that first win. I feel like you have five or six playmats from Battle Hardens, but not a trophy just yet.
Yeah. Actually, like after I made top 8 at this battle hardened, like 'cause I knew that was my first goal, right? Because I knew the top 8 mat was a death dealer mat, which
Yeah.
is my current favorite hero in CC is Azalea. It's like, oh, my goal is just to win that, to get to that the death dealer play mat, right? And then like the actually I made top 4 in at least three, maybe 3 or 4 previous battle hardens, and I've immediately lost in the quarters on all of them. So like my first thought was, oh, okay, I just need to like make it out of quarters this time. But then like once we were like preparing, they gave us our mat. I was like, no, no. I was undefeated all day. Like I couldn't just settle for just getting out of the quarters. I just need to make the finals and get that PTI again, so I can use it for Worlds, which is gonna be in the US. So like, okay, goal now is to like make the finals, get that PTI. I thought about it like no wait, I should just like try to win the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that was my mindset. Like don't the goal is just to win the whole thing, not even just to get that PTI. So like that was like my mindset coming into the top 8. So and it's one
Yeah.
of those days where I felt like yeah, the gods were in my side. A lot of breaks went my way,
Yeah.
especially in round 2 and yeah, in the matchups that I've faced too.
Yeah, you didn't even know what losing felt like that day. You hadn't even lost a game yet. So we'll get right into the top 8 here. So in the quarterfinals, you play yet another Ira. So just your cookie cutter matchup. You practiced a lot against Moises, and now this is your opponent starting the quarterfinals. So you haven't lost yet. You're 7-0. Don't know what losing feels like. Did you already play this Ira?
No, this is actually I played against an Ira in the quarterfinals. A prior local, I guess, previous local to us, Ben Black,
Yeah.
used to be a local in SoCal, plays in Kingsbury Games, I remember, and then now I think lives in Seattle, and drove down to Portland for this battle hard, and then yeah, made top 8. He sneaked in at the 8 seed there. Yeah, so good to see Ben again. We actually played in the calling the previous day as well,
Mm-hmm.
where I just omega high rolled him in my Auxilia deck with like a gigantic gun and a flash combo. So he wanted his revenge to me. So it's like I knew he had revenge in his sights. So I was a little bit worried, but yeah, but Ben is like such a good guy. Like I enjoyed playing with him. Here I ended up like again just I think it is a favorite matchup. I just kept like parity the whole time. I did rewatch a bit of the footage. I think at the end there I could have lost to a double razor reflex if I was really playing around it, but I didn't block a Kodachi. But yeah, I wasn't even thinking about a double razor reflex there. But now that I look back at the footage, I could have lost. But yeah, what are the odds that they would have had it? I did play around against one razor. I knew that I haven't seen one, and I knew they had it in their deck list. So I played around the last one and kind of like took an awkward line in the end. Took me a long time to decide blocks because I was thinking I wanted to save I guess a snapback in my hand to guarantee a kill on his turn. So I ended up taking a line where I had to IP myself just to get that keep a blue card in my arsenal and keep the snapback so I can kill them on their turn. And that ended up taking that line. So it looked kind of weird like to IP or stuff like that, but I just wanted to keep that snapback to like to guarantee the kill. But I ended up didn't not needing it because they ended up having with the heavy red hand and just died to like a polarity. But if they survived that, there was the snapback that I kept would have killed them.
Yeah, it is sometimes pretty weird in Iyslander where you want to be able to keep the right assortment of cards to be able to go off. So like in this case, you kind of wanted to keep your pseudo Stormstrider's turn, so you had to IP yourself to get a stronger hand to be able to do this OTK combo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the line that I thought would be the best chances to win. Yeah.
Yeah, sweet, awesome, and yeah, shout out to Ben once more. He moved away, but we miss him every day. But at Kingslayer especially. But we know he's doing well out there in Seattle. So he's doing good for himself, and obviously doing good in this tournament if he managed to top 8 the Battle Harden. I also played against him in I think it was a CC side event for the Lightning Press, and we were just both
Mhm.
doing really bad in the calling, so we were just like, screw it, let's just have some fun. And I also kind of high rolled him a little bit hard on on
Oh man.
Dash.io as well. So actually no, I think we played the Zen Mirror on Friday. Yeah, I think we played the Zen Mirror. That on Friday was the day I played only Zen just to see if I wanted a last minute swap, and I think we played the Zen Mirror instead. I made the versus Zen state, so I got a lot of points out of that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh man. We both high rolled him this weekend. Oh
yeah,
man.
yeah. So
But
it
yeah.
feels so bad to be the
Brought back,
first.
yeah, brought back memories. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The first reintroduction to Ben is both of us kind of high rolling him. Sweet. So, beating Ben, our good friend Ben. Now you're in the semis. So now you're in top four. A pretty common occurrence for you as well. You've been top four before, but you're still looking to get that title, that first title. So you're looking at another Iyslander player. Did you have any mix ups where you kind of change any sort of strategies, or are we just doing normal Iyslander things?
Yeah, normal standard things. I do this matchup. This is where the polarity actually came in. Like I think they were on Oasis only, not polarity.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up choosing to go second. They sent a spell on my turn. I took 1 damage and polarity to go back to 21. And then so I had the life lead most of the game. It ended up not working out for me because they turned on a lot of their wounded bulls and Fendel fighting spirit, and mine was always off. So like that kept like the game pretty close. And I think looking back, I think I made a bunch of misplays in this game. Like I had a choice of arsenaling of what's it called snap, but instead I chose to arsenal a blue aether hail instead, which I think was a mistake. Looking back, it got stuck there for a long time. Um, Instead of like you can just play out like a cold snap pretty safely on their turn, like because you have to like spend a card in hand to like to send the aether hail, and they can just AB it. So I think that was looking back, it was probably the wrong move, but it worked out in the end. I ended up taking it, have to take a chance in the end to like to kill them, by sending like I think a red Aether Ice Wing, a blue Aether Ice Wing from Arsenal, pumping it with the photon splicing to go over to go when they were at one, with they still had 2 cards in hand, but they only had AB3 at that point. So I took a chance that they don't have a snapback in hand. They would have just killed me in response. But I think I knew pitched a snapback early, and I don't know how far we are on the cycle, but he ended up being 2 more cards off his second cycle to get back to the snapback. So that was the only thing I was worried about. But I did end up getting him at one with the red ice vein pumped up with the photon splicing to go over the AB3.
Sweet, yeah. I mean, Iyslander v Iyslander is a lot of like layering and just making sure you play stuff at the right points in the instances, responding to each other, whatnot. Like this frostbite matters a lot of the time. I do agree with you too. Like Aether, Cold Snap is always good in Arsenal, just because it is a really versatile spell on their turn where you can just draw a card to have 2 floating, but also in the case where you could use it offensively, where you can do it main phase. Draw a card. You still have 2 floating, so you can like send an attack and still Waning Moon, and they have to pay one on your turn to be able to negate the fact that they can't use their arsenal basically. So Cold Snap main phase sometimes underrated.
Yeah. I don't do it very often, but it does come up. Yeah. Even
Yeah,
Polar Blast main phase too.
yeah,
Like, give your stuff dominate.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sending a woundable for 8 with dominate is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a fused glacial footsteps basically in Iyslander. Sweet, awesome. So you finally made it past the semifinals. Is this your first finals in a Battle Hardened?
Yeah, first finals in the Battle Hardened. Yeah. I never
Okay.
made it past the quarters before, so yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff. I actually ended up my game faster, so I ended up having to watch the other semis. It was Oldham versus the Chain that I beat round 7. So like I was kind of didn't know who I wanted to face. I do think Oldham is a better matchup, but obviously Brody is such a good player that he can just beat you up no matter what the matchup is. So I was kind of conflicted in who I wanted to win, so I just ended up just watching it unbiased. Yeah.
Sweet. And yeah, and you've already played both players before, so you kind of have a strat going into it. And like we mentioned before, that we're going to get into it, Brody actually changes his playstyle a lot here. Instead of being more aggressive, he kind of takes a back foot and looks to fatigue you out. So in going into the match,
Mhm.
did you have any thought that might have been a possibility, and did you change your deck in any way?
Yeah, I didn't think. I think I definitely made a mistake. Turn zero on this match. He ended up attacking with an attack, and I blocked with my first snapback. So I it's definitely I think a mistake to block with a snapback there. I don't know why I blocked with it, but I think also like in the few turns later, I had to block with my second one because I would have to take it. I would have to take a very inaccurate, I mean, inefficient line if I didn't. Because I had a few ice vein after, so like I would have to like keep it and then arsenal, or I guess to fuse it. Yeah, I had to block with the second one, and I think Brody did pick up on that one. Good player that he is. That I blocked with both snapbacks, and I think more like a signal like to go more into the fatigue style. Like, definitely without snapbacks in my deck anymore. Like you can easily more you can more easily fatigue Iyslander and without those two cards in your deck.
Yeah, sweet. And then you barely won by 1 health with the game-saving play with the amp card. So tell us a little bit about going through your mind. Like, hey, I'll block with two snapbacks now. He's starting to turn to like fatigue, full fatigue. He's not swinging. He's just ABing now. What's going through your head now? You know, in the finals of the Battle Hardened, what has to be the strategy now to win this game in terms of not having the snapbacks anymore? How are you chipping on damage? And what is your stack looking like to end this game?
Yeah, so I think at this point I basically after that's why the game took so long. I just had to count how much damage left in my deck, how much red attacks I have left in my deck, and calculate how much it can go over his AB3. And yeah, it ended up like I had to kill him with the my very last attack that can go over AB3. Because after that, like I would have been just like deterministically get fatigued, right? I had no more attacks that can go over AB3. With my last photon splicing is the one that went over. So I that so I ended up just squeaking this out at 1 health. And yeah, I think unfortunate too. I guess this is one of those things again going back. Like maybe one of those things where the FAB Gods are in me because that ended up one life mattered in the end because we did have a judge call in the middle of the game where contention was whether he gained life off of Fendel Fighting Spirit. So and the judge ended up ruling in my favor, which is very fortunate. So yeah, so one of those things again. That maybe the FAB Gods were with me that day. That the judge call went my way, and if it didn't, I most definitely would have like lost this finals.
Yeah, you literally won by just 1 health, like the last inkling of damage, and that judge call going in your favor definitely resulted in you winning the game. Just the last gracious gift from the Fab Gods themselves, making sure everything is lining up for the John Zapata win in the Battle Hardened. So now
Yeah,
you
I
barely
used
beat
yeah
Bro. Oh, go ahead.
yeah I used my my one time to
Yeah,
the FAB Gods.
yeah. Hopefully, man. This year's full of Battle Hardens too. So, our 2025 is gonna be full
Yeah.
of Battle Hardens too. So, with the rate at which you top 8 Battle Hardens, I think you're due for another win pretty soon.
Yeah, just good to see my name up there in the world tour points, I guess.
Yeah.
The leaderboard,
As
even
long
just a measly 3 points. Yeah,
as long as they keep printing top 8 playmats that you like, I think you'll do good.
sure. They need Wayne Moon next, though. Yeah.
Right. And then winning the Battle Hardened, you won. We were making all these memes of John just because right now one of the biggest memes is the chill little guy. So we took a picture of John like with his hands in his pockets, being the chill little guy because he's playing Iyslander in front of the winning banner. So you win the gold Battle Hardened gold foil as well. What did you end up getting out of your gold foil?
I ended up getting Crown of Dominion. Is that right? Yeah, the one
Yeah.
that starts with a gold. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Crown of Dominion. Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. I remember like I was watching the finals. Other semis, like I said, like I was watching it, and then her Dennis came up by, and like said, "Oh, are you in the finals?" Yes, yeah, I'm in the finals. I'm just waiting for the semis. He did tell me like if you win your finals game, where you have to take this picture where we both hold up our gold foil. Because he ended up winning the commoner gold foil, but so like I like that put extra pressure on me to win the battle hard because I really wanted to take the picture for it. It was pretty funny, yeah.
Yeah, just our local scene just destroying the commoner scene this whole weekend. Dennis, shout out to
Yeah.
Dennis too, a pioneer in our SoCal community. He won the Commoner Gold Foil event on Friday, and then John winning the Battle Hard on Sunday. He put out a pretty funny meme where he's like, "Even when I do my best on a weekend, my friends are one upping me." So it's hilarious. He got a Goliath Gauntlet too. I mean, it's pretty good in Commoner.
For sure. Yeah, so I just need to find a deck where I can play the Carnage Dominion. Maybe Aurora?
Yeah, it was pretty
Or
funny
one of the
when
new.
yeah, Aurora uses it. Maybe it was actually funny that you mentioned the one of the new heroes because the moment you opened it, you were actually like, dude, you can play the new heroes are royal. This is so good. And then we just reminded you that the heroes are royal anyway, so they don't even have to play this crown.
Yeah. But maybe there's enough good cards there that reward you being royal that a lot of other decks will play.
True. Maybe
I'm
in
definitely
this new
playing
set.
with it for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Sweet, yeah, and then this is the deck tech. John, being 10-0, wins the Battle Hardened down in Portland. So really good weekend for us as a team. We all did pretty well. Some of us made day 2 of the calling, but John, fortunately enough, saw that Battle Hardened was the title of this event, so he decided to win the whole dang thing. If you see him in 2025 at Battle Hardened, just beware. He is unstoppable in this sort of Tier 3 format. So just watch out for that. Any last things you have to say, John?
Oh yeah, so that thanks to the team, like Moises again for running sets with me, and you did as well. And the other person that actually helped a lot with the deck is Alex Vor. He basically built the first draft. He did a lot of tier crafting with me. He actually was messaging me all day Thursday, just talking about sideboards and what tech cards we need to put in. He actually suggested like a lot of the sideboard plan against Chain, where we ran both 2D reacts and the Arcane Polarity. And yeah, like Alex is such a great player. Like I always value his input, and I always know that he has good ideas, and yeah, he was like one of the main like like partner. I know he played the same deck, but he went 0-2 for some reason. So the great Alex Bohr on the same deck went 0-2. So yeah, it goes to show that sometimes like you just have to be lucky to win these tournaments as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see what this deck list does when you have the FAB Gods with you, and then you can also see what this deck list does when you don't have the FAB Gods with you, and that is Alex Ward, my friends. All right, so great deck tech with John today. I'm super happy that we filmed this. We're going to do a lot more content next year in 2025 in terms of deck techs, a lot more streams from all of us, so thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you at the next one.